And what I've noticed by, guys like Holmes and other fellas and girls that are hanging around at the Anchor all the time is they're here out of free will because they love the Lord and they want to be used, and they don't want to be a part of a faith that has no bite, a faith that has no muscle, a faith that has no compassion,
right?
A faith that has no love or sensitivity.
They want something real.
I think the church has a responsibility to inspire people to do this stuff, and that's what we're trying to do.
Okay. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about the some of the activities that the CA is targeted to do. You've mentioned a few things that relate to the poor. Are there some specific ministries, human trafficking? If you could elaborate a little bit more on that, and any other ministries that you have for initial targets?
Definitely. We work here in Nashville with another church called the First Wesleyan Church on Shelby Avenue, and we have a Thursday night street church basically every week that we feed people and we give them groceries for the week, and then we have a regular church with worship and ministry time and teaching. And what we try to do with that is invite the community out to grow together and to build relationships. And then our food bank ministry is obviously targeted towards the poor and towards those in need. And then with the human trafficking, we're working with Free for Life Ministries, which is a ministry located here in Nashville, and they have border monitoring stations in Nepal and various places throughout the world that basically will try to track people that are being, trafficked through other countries into other countries, and will basically grab them and save their lives and give them a place to stay and a place to have protection. And they try to work with the law there to prosecute the offenders, to put them behind bars so that they can't do any more damage. So there's a lot of different ministries that we like to work with because these ministries are already doing a lot of good work. I think International Justice Mission is doing a lot of good work as far as working with other countries with the legal aspect of putting these people behind bars. But there's still a lot of work to be done, and I know that finances is the main thing that these ministries need to have more border monitoring stations and more homes, safe houses, and things. So Free for Life Ministries is the main ministry we're working with now in human trafficking.
The real issue in Nepal is the fact that the borders are open.
Yeah, they're completely porous, from what I understand. Yeah.
And so you have the traffickers going in there, working con jobs or just buying children, and they're bringing them all over the border without anyone stopping them. So it's really a challenge to get the people of Nepal to stand up and to monitor their border and to put a stop to this behavior. But people need to be inspired. So we're actually taking a group of guys guys and girls down at the end of the year to Nepal to work on getting some more of these stations set up for them to do that.
Wow. So you're reaching all the way around the world.
What we're trying to do is get a local issue, which for right now we're dealing with poverty in our city. Of course, it's against the law to be homeless. For the most part, it's against the law for ministries to feed the homeless without a certain license. So we're having a conflict there. We're praying about how we can be a voice to care for the homeless in our city. So that's a local issue example. And then we're trying to do something, we're trying to start looking into something that is national. So one of the things that we're looking at nationally is this issue with the fluoride in the water, which started here in Tennessee and has gone all around the world with the overfluoridation of the water, which is causing sickness and problem. And we're trying to figure out how we can help people pass legislation to get the fluoride removed out of drinking water, which this is the kind of thing nobody really thinks about much.
Now as I understand,
when you look at the research,
right, that there's ample,
you see that it's damaging.
There's ample
and
government.
We're trying to give reinforcement to something that is international, and right now we're looking at the trafficking situation. So, and of course, we're a very small group, so we can't work locally and nationally and internationally like by ourselves. So we're just trying to find people who are already doing the work and let us come alongside and reinforce that somehow. And then if we can open up more chapters around the country, then we'll have more boots on the ground to help. And each chapter, wherever they are, will have a local, a national, and an international issue that they can choose to adopt and to get behind.
Fascinating. It's interesting. You're surrounded by churches with all sorts of money, with really, really fancy facilities, with lots and lots of people who've been blessed and well remunerated financially. And these issues are right under our nose, whether it's the homelessness of the people in our own neighborhood here, or whether it's these issues around the world on the other side of the world that no one else is addressing. And they're not jumping in. I hope some of those people are listening to this radio show right now
sometimes
and are convicted by what they're hearing right now of some people with very little resources downtown that have decided they're not going to, they cannot in their conscience tolerate anymore not taking action on these issues.
Sometimes I wonder if there's some sort of an undercurrent of spiritual warfare that needs to go on with a lot of these things. Listening to the CAAA had Colette Burku talk at one of their meetings, and I was lucky enough to listen to her talk, and she works for Free for Life Ministries. There for our listeners who don't know who they are, they work with the sex trafficking and underage kids. She talked, and some of the stuff she said was just horrifying. And talking with her, she mentioned that she gave a talk in front of 2,000 people, and she said all we need is like $10. We'll save one of these people, and she got one donation in front of 2,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah. At a church, and that just floored me.
Well, I can tell you from my personal experience, we previously did a show at a station that were people of a certain political persuasion that believed in real strong activism, and most of them, my understanding is, they looked at the church as looking the other way when these needs were out there on the street, and it was an impediment to them being able to see what Christ had to offer.
Yeah.
That the lack of action and having these needs right in front of our face that were being ignored really was a stumbling block for them to see the call of Christ. And I see that you all are giving an opportunity to remove that, and you're also removing an excuse for people who talk about the hypocritical church and why won't they do this or do that. They're going to look and see you doing that, and immediately they're going to realize that it's a reality. The call and the ministry of Christ and what he calls us in the new life to be, and that we are our brother's keeper. We are intended to be salt and light, and that's not just the high-profile kind of things for when the camera's around. And
I said, Dr. Future.
It takes you all as examples to be out there on the street, hanging around with the people nobody else wants to hang out with. I've been involved in major churches in Nashville that went on the record as saying they didn't want homeless people around their church because it looked bad for the church, because they wanted to get more of the yuppies that live downtown in the condos to come to the church.
Really?
So I didn't spend much time around there after that. But that's literally the position that they had. And I don't know how pervasive, how much that is articulated, or just sort of one of those unspeakable positions. But that's got to be confronted. And I just appreciate you all so much for setting an example and maybe creating a little shame in some of the other people around. So maybe you can coalesce and have this activity. But, for all the things that you see advertised in a town, all the activities going on, it's your all's work that needs to be on the front page of the newspaper. It needs to be on the bulletins of every church. It needs to be something people see on billboards. And I'm just hoping our little humble show maybe can be one step toward getting you all the attention you need. All of you who are listening out there, please prayerfully consider getting on board and helping.
Yeah.
Make a trip downtown. Actually see how people live in a little different environment than your comfortable suburb or your development that you live in. Go down and see where people are living on the street, or just maybe just barely getting by. and need a helping hand, or jump into an international issue that the church hasn't really taken a visible position to address. Are there any other issues, if you all had all of the resources that you needed, you had all of the manpower, people jumped on board and were helping, what would be other issues that you would extend yourself to and address that have been laid on your heart that are being unaddressed?
Wow, that's a powerful question.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that, but I'll say that I was listening to another radio show one day, and the man speaking said, he started to dialogue, and this was a secular show, but he started to dialogue about evil and corruption in the world, and he uses this phrase called the Luciferian spirit. And I thought, well, that's pretty fun. And he just started to talk about darkness. And then when I go back and I read the New Testament, I see that this is a real battle that's going on. And it is between good and evil. It's between light and dark. And I start thinking about all the things I've been taught in my life. It's not about attacking a culture or society. It's not about harassing people because of sin in their life. It is about resolving what are the things in people's life that bring them to that place of destruction. What is happening in their own personal life? And I think that when we see the commission that God gave to the church, he said, that's your job. Your job is not to go out and condemn sin as much as it is to evaluate what is causing these people to sin. Most of it is hurt, pain, and rejection, and a need. And so the reason the question is tricky, because there is no limitation on that question, because that Luciferian spirit of greed and darkness and apathy is so huge, you could spend your whole life never even scrape the surface. But God calls us to do it anyways, and he calls all of us to participate in somehow, in some way. So I don't know. I have a lot of passionate people around me. You know, I'm sure there are countless things that we could continue to take on. I think I would like to motivate other Christians to getting involved. If I could just get other people to become involved. And again, we're not trying to be the one-horse show in town. We're trying to also reinforce other people's ministry, network with other people.
Well, I would just challenge my listeners out there that if you could forego a few nights of a month not watching a rental movie, take the money from the rental movie, put that in the modest coffers of the CAAA, take that time you would spend entertaining yourself with mindless entertainment or the same TV shows that have nothing new to add, that program us with all sorts of character-weakening material, and instead go down to a CAA meeting, meet some of your brothers and sisters in the Lord, discuss issues that are challenging our society and that are opportunities to minister to people, an opportunity to demonstrate Christ to other people, and actually make that something that actually enriches and makes your life fulfilled is in serving Christ and in doing it shoulder to shoulder with fellow believers. Wouldn't that be a great idea to augment what you're doing there?
Oh, yeah, that'd be fantastic. And the thing is, we'll pass those resources along, too, because we can't be all over the world. We can't do everything. But I just want to, it's interesting. I think that I've referred a few times to waking up. This is sort of a theme that I have embraced in my life. And I think that as a pastor, began to wake up to what was happening in the world, it was so shocking to me that if at first you go through denial, and then you go into depression, and then you get angry, and then you get determined.
It's like a cycle of death, almost.
It is. Yeah. And then God's grace hits you and empowers you to take it on. And you figure, wow, this is what God created me to do. We have to take on these principalities of darkness. And that's not people. Those are spiritual things we have to overcome.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's just, I want to wake up. You know, we first started to wake up. We started a little club of about 7 or 8 guys, and we'd watch documentaries, and we'd talk in the basement, and we called ourselves the Rooster Club. We just wanted to be like roosters and wake people up. And the longer we did that, the more informed we got. But then it started to bring a real sense of depression and hopelessness.